Brad Marchand returns to Boston, plus Randy Moller stops by the show on another edition of the Florida Panthers Insider Podcast, powered by Florida Hockey Now. All right, guys. Well, welcome to another edition of the Florida Panthers Insider. Excited to be here with the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. George Richards is with me. My name is Josh Licht, and we are excited to dive into this week of Panthers hockey. George, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, Josh, what's going on, brother? What's going on? Everything
Man,
good? Everything good your way?
Everything's good for me right now, but it's been a tough week for Panthers Nation. Where I'm sure we'll get into it in a second. A lot of ups and downs, emotional moments. It's been an interesting week in the world of Panthers hockey. But I'm doing good, George. How about you? How are you?
Well, hey, listen, I'm excited about this episode. Like you said in the open, Randy Moller is going to join us later on. Looking forward to talking to Moles. Known him a long time and good friend and big, Panther ambassador, and he's been around since the first season of the Panthers way back in 1993. So always good to hear from Randy. He's a fan favorite, and he's got some great insight on the organization and everything else. So it'll be good. Yeah, and like you said, kind of a wild week for the Panthers. I think our last show, right? They had sustained their first loss in Philadelphia. Panthers end up on the road trip losing the first four before beating the Bruins in Boston on Tuesday night. So yeah, what do you got?
Well, it's kind of, let's talk about it. It was a rough going for sure after winning their first three games at home to go on that road trip and just get right into four losses immediately. It started to be a little bit of a panic mode, especially that last game against Buffalo, where they got shut out. And so, what were your thoughts? We're looking here at some of the footage of the guys just getting practiced, but what were some of your thoughts that you saw during those struggles on the road?
I was asked about this yesterday. I was on Tuesday night. I was on a podcast after the Bruins game up in Boston, and they asked me the same thing. And listen, we talked about this last year when it comes to the Florida Panthers, the style of game that they play, the style of game that brings them the most success. They cannot fake it. They can't just wake up in the morning and say, let's do it. You could see it in the Boston game, the Buffalo game. It just wasn't there. They did not care. It was 1:00 on a Saturday. They didn't care. I'm just being that's what it looked like to me, and they were right in it. The same thing in Philadelphia. They were completely off that entire game, and it was 2-2 late in the third. This team is good enough to win any game they play. They can beat anybody. But I think right now the challenge that they've got, and Paul Maurice has been talking about and trying to correct, is this almost malaise that, hey, we're going to be in the playoffs, whatever. And they probably are, and they know how good they are and how good they can be. But there are going to be games, especially on a 5-game road trip, when like Paul Maurice pointed out, 7 games in 10 days, 11 days, whatever it was. They're part of the grind right now. They're just, okay, where are we at today? We're in Detroit. Okay, where are we at tomorrow? And, they know that they can turn it on. And I know fans don't want to hear that, because maybe we're looking at this in late March and going, boy, if you would have played better, one of those kind of deals. But I don't think anybody within the organization is pushing a panic button or there's any cause for concern. But there are going to be days like Buffalo where the Sabres come out and they got everything going, and still It was 1-0 until Brad Marchand takes that penalty and they get that second power play goal. Florida's right in that game.
Well, how much of that do you think is kind of the Stanley Cup hangover that's talked about? You know, sometimes teams come
Yeah,
off of winning and then they struggle, and they really didn't exhibit that last year. Coming off the first Stanley Cup win, they still were coming out pretty strong. I mean, always every season there's a week or
yeah.
two where there's, but to have that be in the first couple of weeks is unusual. And then how much of that, okay, so how much of it do you think is the Stanley Cup hangover? And how much do you think is it just having to reshuffle lines with Alexander Barkov, Dmitry Kulikov, all these guys, Kachuk out of the lineup, and having to build new chemistry and new expectations among line mates?
I think it's a little bit of both, right? I mean, listen, this team knows how good they are and can be, and they don't get excited about some of these matchups. Now, when you see them play Boston, we knew on Tuesday night the Florida Panthers were going to be plenty excited to play the Bruins, not only because of Brad Marchand, but because it's the Bruins playing in Boston gets the Panthers fired up. Saturday they're playing the Vegas Golden Knights. They'll be excited about that one. Pittsburgh, I guess on Thursday, we'll see how they come out. First game off a long road trip. A lot of times teams don't have their legs underneath them. So we're going to find out what the Panthers have on Thursday. But I'm pretty confident that Saturday they'll be pretty good. Now, like you said, we didn't see this last year. Well, we kind of did. Sasha Barkov went out early last year. Matthew Tkachuk had the flu. Florida had to play without both of them and kind of, got off to a slow start. They lost in Buffalo. They lost in Ottawa. They came back. They beat Boston on Columbus Day, and got things rolling again. So maybe beating this Boston team gets them rolling again. But there's definitely some hiccups. And again, Paul Maurice pointed it out the other day. You can't say, well, if only we had Kachuk and Barkov. Well, they're not coming back, not anytime soon. So deal with it. This is our team.
Right.
This is who we got. I know it's an old reference, but Hoosiers, my team's on the court. Norman Dale, my team's on the court. And half of you guys aren't going to get that, but this is who the Panthers are. This is who they are, and this is a very good lineup. I mean, they're fine. Everybody just chill for a minute. They're fine. And
Don't
I know
wave the
I
white
hate
flag
people are always, oh, you always say that. I always say it because it's kind of how it. Look at the Tampa Bay Lightning. They got off to a terrible start. Do you think the Tampa Bay Lightning are panicking right now? No, the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Florida Panthers are of the same mindset. Okay. All right, we didn't win.
and these things even out. There's that kind of that rule or idea that you got to look at chunks of 10 games for
Yeah.
teams, and then beyond
Coaches
that,
do that.
you
Absolutely.
gotta,
Coaches do that in the 10 game. Well, sure.
yeah, and the 10 game chunks, and then also you got to look at the idea of like it really matters where are you at around American Thanksgiving. And that kind of, if you're within 4 points or so of the playoffs, you have a pretty good chance of being there. And there's teams that we see every year that do the opposite. The Panthers are struggling early. Every year we see teams come surging out of the gate, like the Seattle Kraken this year, looking amazing. And then by the end of the season, they don't make the playoffs. So it's really, you gotta, I know Panther fans are fired up because we won 2 back-to-back cups, and there's a lot going on with that, and there's a lot of excitement. But at the same time, there has to be some realistic understanding.
And it might be a slog for the. I mean, Paul Maurice called it a slog. They're going to be grinding away at games this season. So
yeah,
and they kind of like it that way. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, speaking of Boston, because it seems like a lot of Florida Panthers revolves around what's going on in Boston. Big moment, right? The big return of Brad Marchand. In fact, I know you saw this, George. I know you were watching the broadcast, but let's look at this clip of Brad getting emotional as the Boston Bruins pay tribute to him. I mean, clearly you can see the emotion on his face.
Yeah. He is fighting it, and he ain't winning, right? I mean,
yeah.
and good on him. And you see this the crowd at the Garden. they're showing him, on the jumbotron. They're showing this, and the more he gets emotional, the louder they cheer, which means the more he gets emotional.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a snowball effect. Listen, this guy cut his teeth in Boston. He grew up in Boston. He became a legitimate NHL player, borderline Hall of Famer. I think he is going to be a Hall of Famer. He's got Stanley Cup. He was the captain of an original six team. By the time he's all said and done, he's going to put in 20 years in this league. I think he's going to be a Hall of Famer. And all of it, except for the past 6-7 months, have been with the Boston Bruins in that black and gold. So, yeah, I mean, that's emotional. He created a family in Boston. That's his life there. And yes, he's acclimated himself quite well to the Florida Panthers and to South Florida, and all his antics and the Dairy Queen and all that stuff. And South Florida may just become home, but Boston is always going to be there for him. And they asked him after the game, could he see himself returning to the Bruins in some capacity when his career is over? He's not going back there as a player, maybe as a one-off at the end. Who knows what happens there? But he was like, yeah, of course, sure, we'll see. So again, we will see. But he's got a lot of years in front of him here with the Florida Panthers. I don't know if he's going to play all 6. He says he intends to. Of course he does, but we'll see.
Well, let's see what he said right after the game, just talking about being back in Boston.
I knew it was going to hit me the way it did. It was extremely touching. I'm so grateful for the moment, and very appreciative for it, for what the Bruins did to kind of put that together, and the love and the support the fans have showed me, not just tonight, but through my entire career here. And I always loved playing here, and loved putting the jersey on and wearing my heart on my sleeve. So I think this is a hardworking city, and people appreciate that. So I love the fans here. They're special. They're an incredible group. I was kind of laughing later in the game because I think I got booed there at one point, and it's just, I knew it wouldn't take long, but it was a very, very special night for myself and my family.
What were you thinking and feeling in that moment?
I was trying not to cry. That was what I was trying to do, and then as soon as I saw my kids on the screen, it kind of hit like a ton of bricks, and I just. The memories and the emotions of everything, just the years and the the incredible times, and it just kind of come pouring into your memory, and it's just crazy to see. There's a lot of things that I forget, and the years all kind of bunched together. The careers go by fast. It doesn't matter how long you're in; it goes by extremely fast. And to see, a snapshot of that in a clip like that. It brings everything back, and just the amount of pride, like I said, that I played here and was part of this organization. I just couldn't hold it in, so it meant a lot.
We see there, Brad's reacting to the emotion of it all, but at the same time, then he goes out and has a fantastic game.
Terrific game. You thought he had the first goal, right? Mackie Samoskevich. Yeah, had a number of scoring opportunities. Yeah, fantastic game for Brad Marchand.
And it was a really interesting game. I mean, that goal at the end, that Verhaeghe kind of looked like it was tipped by Reinhart, wasn't. What an insane goal in the dying seconds of the game. I mean, it was such a great goal. It broke the scoreboard in TD Garden. You got
to feel for our guy Andrew Peak too, the defenseman. Yeah. For Boston, former junior Panther out of Parkland, good guy. Played for the Blue Jackets now with the Bruins. He's a friend of the program. He just goes to clear the puck, and it goes off his right skate and past Jeremy Swayman. What are you going to do? Crazy goal, but a great play by the Panthers. They come off the rush. Verhaeghe lets one fly. hits the post. Very well could have gone in and just been a normal game-winning goal. And you know, in this case, it goes off Peak skate, and it's still a game-winning goal. Still counts.
Yeah, you know, it's like Michael Scott quoting Wayne Gretzky, right? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And
And
you know,
Verhage
sometimes
loves
that's
taking that shot, right? He loves taking
yeah.
that shot. Top, you know,
Yeah, and a lot of times it's about the bounces. You know, the Panthers have had many times where the bounces go against them, and then every once in a while they go for them, and that was a great bounce. But at the same time,
things even out,
uh,
like you say.
yeah, it evens out. But the Panthers find themselves back at least even 500, 4-4 on the season. And in the midst of all of this, coming out the day after the Boston game, the Athletic puts out a ranking. You know about the Athletic? You've heard of them? I don't know. Yeah.
I actually think, yeah, these
Yeah.
guys, yeah.
Yeah, those guys. Yeah. They put out a
One of
ranking
my
of
leftover gifts from my days.
Full disclosure, George used to work for the Athletic, and now he gets to work for Florida Hockey now. Way better. But the Athletic put out a ranking of the front offices of the NHL teams, and guess who's number one? The Florida Panthers. What did you think when you saw that, George?
Well, all right, and let's talk about this Athletic survey. They surveyed members of the other front offices from around the NHL. So this is kind of how the GM of the Year award is voted on the NHL GMs. And Jim Nill has won the past two. Lou Lamoriello has won it. Bill Zito has not won it yet. But in this case, the Athletic surveyed, I believe the number is 37. Either GMs or assistant GMs or people high up in organizations, and the Florida Panthers run away with it. I mean, it's not even close for the top hockey ops in the NHL. And I mean, they've been to the Stanley Cup final the past 3 years. They won the President's Trophy 4 years ago. This organization, since Bill Zito took it over, you look at the roster that he inherited in 2020, and you look at it now, it's been completely turned around. There's only a handful of guys left. Now, the guys left are pretty darn good. Sasha Barkov, Sergei Bobrovsky, Aaron Ekblad, Etu Luostarinen. Those are the only guys, right? He drafts Anton Lundell. He drafts Mackie Samoskevich. You know, he gets Gus Forsling off waivers. The one thing in the story was that he has built a team culture here that players want to be a part of. He's been able to build a team by getting guys like Forsling that off waivers, guys that people, you know, just didn't want anymore. You look at the defensemen that Florida have signed, and it's like Daniil Tarasov, just another an example of that. So, the Florida Panthers front office certainly doing the job, and the results speak for themselves.
Well, and if for some reason you didn't see our episode with Bill Zito, go back and watch or listen to that episode.
That's a good episode.
It's a great episode. And he talked about servant leadership being a huge part of their culture, which I think, you know, the guys don't care. You know, he mentioned somebody had asked Matthew Tkachuk how many points he had that season. He didn't even know because he didn't care.
Didn't care.
Because it's all about the team. So that's one part of the culture. And then the thing that really stuck out to me from our talk with Bill a few weeks ago was when he talked about, you know, I kind of brought up, you know, you take some swings on some guys, you know, Gus Forsling, Tarasov now, you know, even Seth Jones in a way, like guys that kind of have been cast off from other teams and they work. And I love what he said. He goes, it's not a swing for me. If you know what I know, it's a win. It's a home run. So you see that confidence and that culture. I think those are the two things that Bill Zito has really established with the Panthers.
Yeah. And Sam Bennett, look at Sam Bennett being misused in Calgary, comes to Florida. Hey, bud, we're going to put you on the second line with Jonathan Huberdeau. Okay. I'm good.
Carter Verhaeghe.
Good for that. Carter Verhaeghe was a cap casualty with the Tampa Bay Lightning. They would have liked to have kept him, but they had tough decisions to make and decided against. And then the Florida Panthers first team to call. 2 years, man. 2 years. Come on.
Yeah, Nico Mikkola. I mean, we can just keep going on and on. Guys
How
that,
about Ryan Lomberg? Ryan
yeah,
Lomberg, a cast off in Calgary during the COVID thing. First thing, I was talking to Bill Z. He goes, "Our fans are going to love this guy," and I'm like, "He's played like 15 games in the NHL. How do you?" He goes, "Trust me, our fans are going to love this guy,"
and they did.
and they did. But it did it. It took it. Anyway, I'm not getting into Ryan Lomberg. Who we should try and get on this show. He'll do it.
That'd be great.
We'll get Ryan Lomberg eventually. But yeah, guys like that, guys of that, AJ Greer, Jonah Gadgovich. I mean, Florida signed Gadgovich to an AHL deal. When he had that hand injury, I think we talked about it last week, and now he's gotten successive 2-year contracts. So they find guys who they feel, and the research they do on these guys is incredible. And in some cases, like Seth Jones, Bill Zito did all the research already. He already knew the man personally from his days in Columbus and really liked Seth Jones as a person and as a player, and knew his personality would fit in no problem. Some of that stuff you have to research because you don't always know these guys. But in some of those cases, you know them, you know it's going to work.
Well, look at this offseason with the stuff with Dallas eventually ending up with, having to make this trade from Carolina because Carolina gets Mikko Rantanen and he doesn't fit with the culture, and you go, oh, wait a minute, we brought in this guy and it's not working. He doesn't want to sign. So not to get into that whole story, but just to say that, Bill Zito has done a great job. Yeah. Bill Zito's done a great job of finding guys that want to be here and that fit with what they're doing. And so definitely deserved. And I hope that this athletic poll is a precursor to the eventual GM of the Year award this
and
year.
If not, I'm telling you right now, the only people who even remember who wins this thing is us, because we have to write about how Bill Zito didn't win it. Nobody else in the NHL even remembers. Well, who won it last year? Well, Jim Nils won it twice. Oh, he has? Cool. Nobody. Bill Zito doesn't care. He's got his GM.
Well, Zito doesn't care, but I care, George.
I know you do.
I want it. I want him to get
like
his
a
due.
full trophy case. I know you. You're a show pony. You got to have those trophies. The results are what matter, son.
I like the Stanley Cup. That's a good
trophies.
Trophy, right?
Tarnish, Josh. Someday you'll learn that.
Well, let's talk about what the Panthers have to do to even have another shot at a trophy. And part of that is dealing with
not that trophy. That trophy doesn't tarnish.
True. Yeah. Something that came up after our last show, which is Dmitry Kulikov did have surgery.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he is going to be out 5 months or so. We weren't sure at the time last time we recorded. So this definitely changes things.
Yeah, it does.
For that last defensive pair. And then in addition to Kulikov going on the IR, the Panthers make a waiver claim. A Cuban American or Cuban Canadian, I guess.
He's Cuban Canadian.
Panthers, Cuban Canadian. Donovan Sabrango, is that how you say it? Sabrango?
I'm hoping we get to meet him tomorrow at Thursday.
Yeah, because he's back in town now.
Yeah, well, we hope. Apparently, I believe I haven't been with the team this road trip. I believe he had some visa issues. He is a Canadian. So he has to get a U.S. work visa to play for the Panthers. But Florida picked him up. He's an Ottawa native who was playing for the Ottawa Senators. He played 2 games last year. He played the first 2 games this year, including in Sunrise against the Panthers. And the Senators were trying to send him to their AHL team in Belleville. And Florida snapped him up. So hopefully we get this. His father was a famous soccer player, a superstar Cuban, a superstar soccer player in Cuba. Immigrated to Canada, didn't defect or anything. Legally immigrated to Canada. Played Canadian professional soccer for a long time. So. Very interesting story. Raised by his mom in Ottawa, in the Ottawa area, so he became a hockey guy, and now he's in South Florida. So it'll be
it's going to be interesting. To see how he fits
and interesting
in.
To see him play, because here's another guy where you look at the numbers and you're like, Panthers have to see something. And I think a lot of teams were like, what does Florida see? What does Florida, because Florida's picking last in this, at least in the first 2 weeks of the waiver order. That means he was the Panthers away from staying with the Senators and going to the AHL. So
Yeah, and it's
other
interesting
GMs got to go, well, what does Florida see that we didn't?
well, we just talked about it. Bill Zito sees things though that other GMs don't always see, and so it'll be interesting, if he fits into that bottom pairing. And that bottom pairing has struggled since
It
Dmitry
has,
Kulikov's departure.
and I don't know who's to blame on that one. But listen, you know what? I'll tell you something, and I know a lot of people are already jumping on Jeff Petrie. I've seen some people jump on him, and listen, I think that the third pairing for Florida the last couple years has gotten off the slow starts. It takes a minute for those, it just does. So we'll see what happens moving forward. But yeah, I mean, I think Balinskis is going to get a lot of playing time. You got Toby still with the team. I would think Toby's the guy that goes back because he's got the 30-day waiver. He can go back to Charlotte once Donovan gets his visa stuff all straightened out. But yeah, that is something to look at, that 5-6 defenseman pairing, see what happens there. But
yeah, for sure.
That's what we always said, though. I mean, we were always like, we got three defensemen to play 5, 6, 7, and Florida just hates changing them out. And the 5, 6 kind of after the first couple, they kind of just stick. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see how it all plays out. Kulikov's been a huge part of the culture
Yeah,
of the team.
absolutely.
So
absolutely.
But they know he's going to come back, hopefully before the playoffs. So that's great.
That's what they'd love to see him before the playoffs.
Well, hey, we got Randy Moller getting ready to come in here. So why don't we
Is he on? Is he here?
He's here. So
He's on the horn?
Let's see what Randy has to say.
Tian, supermodel and a super Florida Panther fan. Tian, could you explain to some of our newer fans the different penalty calls that happened during the game?
Oh, sure, Randy. Well, let's see. There's hooking and holding.
Ooh, I like
and
that
elbowing,
one.
slashing, and my personal favorite, cross-checking. All of which will get you a 2-minute penalty, unless, of course, you draw blood. You're not bleeding, are you?
McCabe back to Bouwmeester, over to the far side. Frolik takes a feed from Bouwmeester, fires, he scores! LA face with an Oakland booty. Ballard steps into the middle. He and Bouwmeester will trade. Ballard, quick strike shoots, he scores! Ball! The meatloaf! Panthers with a power play goal. They got a 1-0 lead. Stillman right out in front, they shoot, they score! Make me a bicycle clown!
All right. Well, here he is, the man, the myth, the legend. Randy Moller joins the Florida Panther Insider podcast. Randy, thanks for coming.
Oh, it's a pleasure of mine, guys. Glad to be on. Yeah, we're dipping back a little nostalgia. Actually, I got a colleague of mine, George, you might remember Brian Gersh that used to work for me, and he ran youth hockey and community development years ago.
Yeah.
He's living up in New York, and he's got a very successful marketing company and that. Now, anyways, he texted me this morning. He said that Howard Stern, in one of his promos, had one of my goal calls on there. Who's your daddy and what does he do? So I thought that was kind of interesting. Boy, that's
big time, baby.
That's a long time ago, and that. But I ran into somebody that worked in for the Buffalo Sabres in their organization, and she introduced herself and says her and her friends, they still play those audio things that you guys just played there on those goal calls and that. So
I love the movie lines, first off, some of which I may have suggested back in the day.
I think you did.
I also, because we'd be at dinner and you're like, I need 5 of them, and I'm like, I'm thinking Caddyshack, we could do Animal House, Smokey and the Bandit. You're like, what's this? I'm like, it's for Smokey and the Bandit. People will get it. I love listening to the old names. I mean, my gosh, some of those guys, Ballard with the goal, Bouwmeester. It was
Michael Frolik.
those
There you go.
calls, we've heard them all so many times. It feels like it was yesterday, and then you realize, geez, that was 15 years ago. That
Yeah.
was when nobody, Dan Le Batard was a columnist at the Miami Herald who had a show on 790 790 The Ticket.
790, yep.
And he would bring you on. Can you just talk a little bit about how that Dan Le Batard kind of got that started, right?
Well, yeah, you got part of it right, George. Absolutely, it was Dan Le Batard. I remember when we switched over from 560 to 790.
They were rival
radio
stations
rights.
back then.
Yeah, there were two different stations, and I remember Dan had just started his radio show, and it was gaining popularity. And then all of a sudden, they get the Panther rights, and we go up to the Dan Le Batard. I remember Dan saying to me, he's saying, Randy, I don't know anything. I really don't like hockey. And, my show's really not about that. We got to come up with something or whatever. And then it just kind of morphed into that. And the first one was, so we had to do a 15-minute crossover from at the end of his show into our broadcast.
Into your pregame.
It was so obvious. Dan wasn't too excited about it. But he said, let's have some fun with this. And right at that time, guys, there was a controversy going on in the NBA, and the saying was, and you guys will recognize this, Bibby will be flopping, Bibby's flopping, Bibby will be flopping. Well, obviously that was one of the NBA players, and he'd be flopping and that. So they made a big deal out of it. So he said to me, if the Panthers score, will you say, Bibby, he'd be flopping or whatever? So I said, sure. And it took off. And then, of course, all the suggestions from his show, and Mark Hochman was on at that time as well with him, and Stu Gotts and that. Oh my God. And some of the ones that they wanted me to do that obviously I could not do. And then the other thing, when I tell the story about this so many times when people ask, and I do, these podcasts and that was, and George, you've known me for 25 years. I'm very respectful for all kinds of entertainment and especially music, but I am just the least knowledgeable rap fan. Like rap, and that I don't really listen to rap, although, hey, it's music. I respect that and that. And they would come with these suggestions and that from these rap songs and stuff like that. But I had no idea what I was saying, so I'd let it fly or whatever. And everybody got a good laugh out of those.
Yeah, I remember you used to have a list of them, right? You'd have a list up in the booth like this, right? And you'd have them written down. But it was just they were so much fun.
I had to write most of these down because there was a lot of them I'd never heard. I never heard these sayings before. They were from a rap song or whatever, especially those. And that's what I'd have to write it down. And then a lot of times I'd get it wrong, or I'd screw it up sometime. That made it even funnier or whatever. Yeah. So
Mark Hochman, we had fun. Mark Hochman kept it going on the football with Don Bailey Jr. is doing that now. So after Miami scores a touchdown, he's saying,
and George, you remember we talked about it all the time.
So much fun.
As long as everybody's having fun.
Yep.
I'm not interested in being controversial or political or something.
If the Panthers were losing a close game, you wouldn't do it, right?
No,
right.
But as you remember, George, back in those days or whatever, the Panthers weren't that successful on the ice, so we had to do something to have some fun.
And let me tell you what, and thank you for Randy Moller joining us here on the Florida Panthers Insider Podcast. Just, those days, I mean, the ratings were at the, you really brought attention to it and brought new fans to the Panthers because they were listening to the radio games just to hear what you'd say next. Speaking of Howard Stern, you can't turn him off because you can't wait to hear what he says next.
Yeah, we had, and it got crazy there for a couple of years where it seemed like every city that I would go to, like Philadelphia, their big sports, the Whip, and that, and I'd go to New York and I'd be on the Fan in the morning, and go to Chicago, and what's that guy, Mad Cow or whatever his name is in Chicago and LA and San Jose. I remember going
Oakland,
flying into San Jose, and they had this really popular sports program on in the early evening leading up to the games and that in San Francisco. They sent a car for me all the way from San Jose to San Francisco in the studio to do the show, and then they would the limo would take me right back to the hotel and stuff like that. Where I mean, I could have done it probably on by the phone or something like that. But those were crazy days at that time. We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun with it. I'm just glad that everybody had fun. And like I said, I wasn't into anything controversial or whatever. As long as we're having fun and nobody gets hurt, let's do it. Let it fly.
Well, and you still do it a little bit, Randy. Every once in a while in the TV broadcast, I'll hear a little Randyism. You know, that's where
Yeah,
Mrs. Moeller keeps the cookies or something like that.
yeah.
Uh,
There's a few. Yeah, let a few go and that. I mean, we had one. Remember the preseason game against Tampa Bay where there was a million penalty minutes or whatever, and Tampa had they had like 8 guys in the penalty box, and I said the off ice official, when they put one more guy in there, he's going to request from the official some Febreze and a stick of deodorant. There was so much. Can you imagine
Oh,
how raw that would smell in there? You got 8 guys in a 4x4
soaking wet.
penalty
Yep.
box or whatever with smelly gloves and smelly equipment and that. Oh yeah, yeah. No, we're having fun, and George knows me in that. I have to have fun. I don't take myself seriously. I take the job very seriously, my
Nope.
position, but I don't take myself too seriously. And if you can make fun of yourself and have some fun and be entertaining at the same time, yet be knowledgeable and educate people about the game and about the actual game that's going on and the who, what, where, when, and the why it's happening, then I know that I'm doing my job.
well, Randy,
I
you've
wanted
been
to
a
ask.
great ambassador. Oh, sorry, George. You've been a great ambassador. Like we saw that commercial at the beginning, from a while back, doing the penalties and stuff. What was it like going from all these years of being kind of an ambassador representative of the Panthers to now getting to a point where the Panthers are back-to-back Stanley Cup champions? Like, talk about just the evolution of hockey in South Florida during your time.
Well, when I tell people that when I first got down here, which was the second year, and obviously this is a new franchise and that, and like a lot of people that weren't from here or whatever that ask you back in Canada or up in the Northeast or whatever, they said, what was it like back then? Geez, they don't have a history of hockey. But as you know, guys, down here 25, 30 years ago, you rarely find somebody that was a native Floridian. Everybody was from somewhere else. And a lot of New Yorkers, a lot of people from Chicago, from Boston, Philly, and that kind of stuff. So there was a lot of people down here that were fairly knowledgeable about the game of hockey because they grew up. If you grew up in New York, you had the Rangers and Ooh La La and that, and you also had the Islanders winning 4 straight Stanley Cups and that. So you were knowledgeable about the game. It wasn't like we were it was an expansion franchise on the moon or something where nobody, they had no idea about the sport. We had a leg up on it. But to answer your question, and the long-winded one, is we had a lot of work to do when we got down here, and especially getting the kids involved in the youth hockey and a lot of the street hockey and roller hockey and that. And now all those kids are all in their 30s and late 30s, 40s, and now they're having kids as well. So there was a lot of work. The team got off to a great start. Went to the finals their third year, and then things kind of dipped after some of the original players like the Mellenbys and the Van Beesbrooks and the Billy Lindsays and Stu Barnes and that, and then the Pavel Burys and of the world, and then we went through kind of like a dark period there where we struggled both on and off the ice, but we kept at it, and I'm so, Josh, I'm so happy and proud because I run into, and so does George, every day. We run into fans that have been original season ticket holders or 20 years, 25 years, what have you. And to see us come out, see the franchise both on and off the ice come out of some challenging times. Let's admit it. And to have that success and see how proud and how happy and satisfied they are with the success of the Panthers. 4 years ago, the team won the President's Trophy. And the last 3 years they've gone to the finals. And the last 2 years they've won the Stanley Cup. So I'm so happy that these fans that have stuck with this team and they're having a lot of fun right now, and it's an entertaining product, and it's a great building, and it's so much fun to come to the arena and see such a good product both on the ice and what they've done with the arena and the fan the interactions and stuff like that. That's a lot of fun and a lot of gratification for me.
They call you Randy Red Deer Moller because you're from Red Deer, Alberta. You played for the Quebec Nordiques, the New York Rangers, the Buffalo Sabres. We talked to Billy Lindsay last week. Again, we're with Randy Moller. Everybody listening on the audio can hear your voice. They know who you are. We talked to Billy Lindsay last week. He said as soon as he stepped off the plane, he's like, yeah, I like this. This is where I want to be. What was your thought when you first, because this was, toward the end of your career, whether I don't know if you knew it at that point or not, when you got here, an expansion team, the Florida Panthers, playing in Miami, training 45 miles away in Pompano, what were your first thoughts when you're like, you're still in the NHL, but what were your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think you kind of hit on a lot of it, George. I was at the end of my career. I just couldn't play. My body was falling apart. My back, my hips. I had, shoulder total rebuild that it never really healed properly. I couldn't be the player that I wanted to be, and I kind of hung on the last couple of years. But I knew that that I was at the end of my career. I had a very young family here. The kids were small. They were in private school in Boca Raton, so. We wanted to stay. Obviously, I'd played in cold weather cities pretty well my whole career. We loved it down here. And I tell people I had a meeting after I retired. I had a meeting with Mr. Bill Torrey, the Hall of Famer. And he said, Randy, we're trying to build down here. And with your personality, we'd like you to be involved in that. And that's all George, that's all it took. That's all it took. I said, yes, I will do this. And then I started in public out with marketing. I was dropping pucks at Tiny Mite Pee Wee tournaments from Fort Pierce and Orlando all the way down to Kendall every Saturday morning. Then obviously got into the radio and then grew as an executive with the team and running different departments and stuff like that. Started the Alumni Association. So it's all come kind of full circle but I knew that we wanted to be here. My family, my kids loved it. They were great schools down here. My wife was very comfortable in that. So if I thought, like I said, I can always go back home to Red Deer and drive a truck, but I wasn't really that fond of doing that. If I had to, I would, but I had to work. Back in those days, guys, we weren't making the big contracts and that. I mean, when I retired, it wasn't going to be long before I was going to have to find a job and that. So it's all worked out. I'm very fortunate. I love the team. I'm the longest standing kind of employee of the team. I've been over here for over 30 years and I love every minute. I never take it for granted. The team's been so good to me. And I've enjoyed every minute of it, and especially the last number of years to finally see the team have that success on the ice and those fans to have that enjoyment, and that's what makes it all so special.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Randy, George just mentioned that you played for the Nordiques, and kind of an interesting thing this last week, they announced that the Colorado Avalanche are going to wear the throwback Nordiques jerseys tomorrow night, Thursday night, against the Carolina Hurricanes, wearing the Hartford Whaler jerseys. So I pulled a picture of what these jerseys will look like and what you looked like in the old Nordiques outfit there. Talk a little bit about what that means for you as a former member of Quebec.
Yeah, well, I like to tell people, whatever, it took me 7 years to try and ruin that franchise in Quebec. So, but it was 7 great years there. It's kind of iconic uniforms and that. But to answer your question, whatever, I was kind of surprised, but very pleased. Excuse me, that Colorado's doing that. That shows that they do respect and they do recognize the history of their franchise, where where it came from in Quebec and that, and to have those type of uniforms and that to kind of honor the past. I think that's really, really cool. I'm very happy that they're doing that. You know, I see Joe Sakic a couple times a year when the Panthers play the Avalanche, and of course he was a teammate of mine, and what he's done in the Stanley Cups, both on the ice and off the ice, and that with the Colorado Avalanche. And we all, when we get together, we laugh and we talk about the old days, about when we were playing for the Quebec Nordiques and back in the old Le Colisée, and we reminisce quite a bit. So it's a lot of fun, and I'm glad that they're recognizing the Quebec uniforms, because they were pretty cool back then. I was pretty proud of them.
Yeah, they were pretty slick. They still are. People still wearing them. People still, like the Expos. They're just cool. They're just cool.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, just got off the road, Florida Panthers. You guys weren't in Boston last night for the Brad Marchand party. I know you watched it. What were your thoughts on Brad Marchand being back in Boston and the ceremony and all that?
I thought it was fantastic. Hats off to the Boston Bruins organization for recognizing a iconic, not only Boston Bruin, but a sports figure within a great sports town in Brad Marchand, 16 years. I'll be honest with you guys, I was not surprised at all about any of it.
Yeah.
I knew that it would be a great tribute, and I knew, and knowing Brad and the way he plays and the type of person that he is, that he was going to get emotional. I said to my wife, I said, you want to bet it'll be 3 seconds before Brad's going to start, getting pretty emotional and the tears in his eyes. And sure enough, it was.
Good for him.
If a lot of people have never been in that situation where you've been so ingrained for 16 years, and the type of player that he was and what he meant not only to the Bruins, but to the city of Boston as well, and winning the cup after some very tough years, and that before that, in 2011, and that I thought that overall, I just like, wonderful, just great. And I thought Brad handled it very well. And some of the comments that he made, obviously, after the game, and the type of game that he played, got 2 assists and helped the Panthers win that game. I thought it was a total success. And that I'm sure that Brad, though, I'm sure he's glad that it's over with. And that now he doesn't have to do that anymore, because it is pretty emotional.
Josh, you got some questions for us?
So Randy, we have a sponsorship with the Infield, which is a sports bar there in Sunrise.
Oh, he knows the Infield.
You know the Infield, of course.
Oh, yeah. He knows the Infield.
And so the Infield has given us...
You guys drank a lot of beer there, George. Yeah, it's a great spot. It's a great spot. Yeah.
Little Blues Brothers reference.
Yeah.
They've given us 3 burning questions that we're supposed to ask you. So
okay.
Let's start. The first one's easy. And we know that you like these. How do you like your wings, Randy? What is your go-to wings order?
Well, I used to like medium to hot, but in my advanced age and wisdom, I can't have those anymore, or else there's no chance that I'm going to be sleeping at night. That's for sure. What I do, guys, we were just in Buffalo, and we were at one of my favorite spots there, which is called Mother's. And we got some wings. I order them plain. I just order them plain, and then I have the hot sauce, medium hot sauce on the side with a little bit of ranch dressing. I kind of dip it in. The heartburn that I get at 1:30 in the morning after having wings is just not worth it anymore. But I love my wings. I love wings, whether it's here or in Buffalo or whatever. But we always get together, all of our crew and our broadcasters, Goldie and Katie, and our crew, our great crew that we got with scripts and stuff like that, and maybe a couple of the trainers will join us, and that we'll always go out, and it's kind of a tradition in Buffalo. George used to join us all the time.
We went in a blizzard one night. Remember that? We couldn't get cabs. The cabbies were like, "No, we're not." Well, come on, it's right down the street.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The weather was beautiful when we got to Buffalo on that Friday. it was 70 degrees, and then we get up in the morning and then play the game. Unfortunately, it didn't go the Panthers' way. We come out after the game, and it's 68 degrees at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, not a cloud in the sky, and that. So guess what we did? We went for some more wings.
You got to. When you're in Buffalo, that's what you got to do.
That's it. That's it.
Okay, so second of the three burning questions, Randy. What is a favorite childhood sports memory? It could be a game that you were involved in as a kid, or it could be like watching a professional team win or do something. Like what's a great childhood sports memory?
Well, I got two of them, and I'll be very quick. I was from a very, very small town out in Western Canada before we even moved to Red Deer. And they had the old, in the Western Hockey League, they had the old Calgary Centennials. And Danny Gare was a big star for the Centennials. Mike Rogers played there, and that's these maybe some of these names don't resonate with a lot of your fans or whatever. I got an opportunity to go and see a game, and I thought that was the most iconic thing. The most amazing thing because there was no Calgary Flames at the time, there was no Edmonton Oilers at the time, and that too. So junior hockey was as good as you could get, and to see some of these stars that turned out to be great stars in the NHL. The other one is that came right to mind, Josh, when you asked that question. It was my first year in the NHL. I'm with the Quebec Nordiques. We're playing on the road an afternoon game against the Boston Bruins back in the old Boston Garden. And it was the first time that I was coming to Boston Garden, blah, blah, blah. And they had a bit of a alumni skate before we arrived. I think we were playing at 1 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So when the bus arrived and I came out from the locker room, by the benches to take a look at this iconic building, and that there was Bobby Orr on the ice skating. And, obviously he had been retired for a while with the knee injuries, but he was out there skating, bad knees and all, and still so fluid. And what Bobby Orr was my favorite hockey player when I grew up. Favorite by far. And to see him live, and then he came over to the bench and said hello to us, and that I just about melted right there, right on the bench. It was a special time, really special time to meet. And I got to know Bobby very well now, and he just lives up in northern Palm Beach, and he's such a gentleman, and that too. So that was probably one of my biggest memories.
Yeah, and like you said, Bobby Orr, we get to see him all the time. I mean, he was a player agent. He was Ekblad's agent, right? Or maybe still is. So he would be up in the press box hanging out. That was just like there would be a buzz right in the press box. Bobby Orr's here. Bobby Orr's here. Gretzky's in the building, but we never see him. But Bobby Orr, he'd be up there, getting a hot dog with the rest of the people.
What a great
drinking out of the coffee machine.
Yeah, what a great man! What a great ambassador for the game, and that. Yeah, so it would be Bobby Orr when I first met him for the first time.
Very cool. That's an awesome story. All right, and then the last one, Randy, is simply this: if you got a day, and maybe you did, I don't know how that all works, after they win the cup, but if you got a day with the Stanley Cup, what would be your perfect day with Lord Stanley?
And no travel problems anywhere you wanted to go. You got 3-4 days with it. You can go anywhere you want.
Do whatever you want. Now we know it'll look something like this, right? But your day with the Stanley.
I'm a little bit different than other people, and a lot of people have asked me going back to last year and even this year, "Hey Randy, what did you do with your day with the cup?" And I would be very quick to say, I said, I didn't have a day with the cup, and that, and I agree with that. I think that it's such a special moment for the players, for the coaches, for the trainers, for the ownership, and what they go through, and that I never expected when they won the cup to have a day with the cup. And I'm totally fine with that, guys. I really get a lot of pleasure in seeing the players, coaches, and like people that I mentioned have their day with the cup with their family, with their community, and that. I've gotten my picture taken with the cup a number of times. I've got a Stanley Cup ring. That's good enough for me. That's good enough for me. I love seeing the fans have the opportunity, and they've had a couple of different opportunities. Remember before the first game or one of the preseason games where season ticket holders could come in and get their picture taken. That means more to me than having a day with the cup. But to answer your question though, if I had the day with the cup, just as long as I could have it with my kids and my family here and really close friends and keep it kind of low key, that would probably be it. Nothing spectacular. I'm not, I have to go back to Red Deer or any place like that. I think just sharing it with the family, especially, like my wife and that. George, you remember, I mean, we went through, I was working 14-hour days, 14-hour days,
You were
trying to keep this this franchise alive, doing six
You'd have a
different
stack of
jobs.
tickets in your pocket like this. George, can you get 8 friends to come tonight? No, I can't. Can you
Oh my
take 4?
goodness.
All right, I'll take 4. Make sure they
Yeah.
scan.
Yeah.
You were hustling all the time.
My family sacrifice. There, I wasn't there for a lot of the kids' activities, sports, and what have you, because I had to work full time, and I was working full time, 12 months a year, and that during the season, off season, we get home from road trips at 4 o'clock in the morning. I go straight to the office, right to the office, and work till 6, 7 o'clock at night. There is people that know about it. George, you know about it, and that a lot of people don't realize it. I sacrificed quite a bit for that. So I would have to share it with my family, my close friends, that neighbors, and that they didn't see me very often during those 10 years, 10 plus years, or whatever.
If you'll
Well,
allow
let
me
me
this,
ask you.
real quick, Josh, we
Yeah.
used to go to those summer barbecues, right, to drum up season ticket, right, and we'd see basically the same folks, and you still see them now. And to see those people in line to see the Stanley Cup and the excitement on their faces when they were there, when nobody else wanted to be there, that's what I was like, yeah, good for you guys. Good for you, because they were here, when nobody wanted to be here, and they were there for those barbecues and to meet you and Goldie and Denny and all that. And
Yeah. Yeah, we were flipping burgers and trying to get half season people to agree to half
yep.
season tickets and that kind of stuff. But like I said, you know what? Hard work and perseverance and strong leadership, and usually good things going to happen in that. I'm just so happy for the fans down here that have been able to enjoy these, especially these last 3-4 years. It's been magical, and I just love broadcasting every minute of it.
And the fans love you guys. I mean, and I think that's a big part of this. Yourself, Goldie, Billy, you guys have been here so long, and you've worked together. You work together so well. You and Goldie. I mean, my goodness, you guys play off each other so well. It's like you've known each other forever, and I guess maybe you have.
Yeah,
Right?
we have. Yeah, Goldie's right behind me as far as seniority or whatever. How many years? He's almost 30 years. I'm a little over 30 years. So, yeah, we've been together, and you know what? We're best friends. A lot of people don't realize that on game days we don't really talk too much with each other. Some games hardly at all, until that camera goes on, and then it's showtime, and then away we go again, or whatever, and that. So and Billy's been around a long time, and that, and I just love that Joe
Doug's
Bo
been
is
here for a while.
around now with the team, and helping broadcast as well with Jessica on the pregame and intermissions and post games and that. So there's a lot of recognition with the fans of the history of the game, and we're just very proud and privileged to be a part of it, guys.
Hey, Randy, I just wanted to ask you, because we know for some of the other guys, when you guys were at the finals the last 2 years, obviously you weren't broadcasting those final games. Where were you in the building when they won both cups?
Well, we were doing, we do the first round, and then after that, obviously it's network TV. But the scripts last year, we did, that 30-minute pregame show before every game, home and away. The first year I was in the building, obviously, and last year as well. We were in the building, and we did the pregame show. and then jumped in from the studio in Plantation with Jovo. Maybe we were just a smidge over the speed limit, right into the garage, upstairs, whatever. And we usually get into or be able to see live the team after being off the air at like right at 7 o'clock or whatever, probably right before the first commercial break with about 13 minutes left in the first period. So it worked out pretty good. And that very privileged to be able to go on the ice and that after the team has won the first year and last year and that my boys were at the game last year with me and that too. They were able to experience that final game and that. So those memories really they're really going to last a long time. And I just hope that this team, and I think they're set up that they're going to have a lot of success for years to come and the enjoyment. Yeah, there's going to be ups and downs and that. And everybody knows that that's the way sports is. You can't win it every year, but I think they're set up to have long-term success both on and off the ice. And that's what really motivates me as well, too, because I just love being around it and being around this young team and these young players, how talented they are.
Well, that's
Thanks,
been
Randy,
great
so
having
much.
Randy. Yeah, great having Randy Moller here with us. Thank you for joining us here on the Florida Panthers Insider. Randy, we will see you at the arena on the Florida Panthers broadcast yourself with Steve Goldstein, Katie Engelson, Jessica Blaylock, and Ed Jovanowski. Pretty good team you got there. So thank you for joining us, and I'll see you at the rink, pal.
Okay, yeah, George, and like I like to say, if I'm not dead by Thursday, I'll be roaring Friday night.
There you go. Bring it, buddy.
See you guys.
See you, pal.
Oh, that was great, wasn't it, George? Love Randy. Just the best. Isn't he the best?
He is an original, right? An original. Yeah. I mean, just there are no other Randy Mollers, man. He is and he's Florida's. He's South Florida's guy, man. Yeah. I feel good for guys like Randy. I forget who asked me when the Panthers won the Cup, and people asked me about it. I said I felt good because I was in that circle, just seeing people on the ice and seeing people, like I said, the season ticket holders that they got to take their picture with the Cup after being guys like Randy, guys like Goldie, other people around the organization that have just that trudged through the muck. And came out the other side, as they say in Shawshank Redemption. I was happy for those guys to see them be able to celebrate. Randy was so happy. We were in that, being on the ice in 24 and well-deserved. And he did work his tail off. I mean, he would be there at the morning skates and go into the office and again, with those stacks, he was just trying to sell a team that nobody wanted to buy, and it was tough. It was tough sledding, but he had it pretty good. He had it pretty good. He was still traveling and being a hockey guy. He was still living the hockey life, but he stuck with it, and the Panthers rewarded him.
The night that the Panthers won in 2024, late that night, like midnight or whatever, I was texting a few people that I just know have been around forever.
Yeah.
And Randy was one of those guys that I texted, and I just said, thank you for all those years of doing what you did. And it was so great. Like 3 a.m. that night, he texted me back, thanks, Josh, and so it was just, I think I texted you too. It was just one of those things where I'm like, yeah, this has just been such an incredible ride. And Randy's been there. And years and years ago, 2009, 2010, when I was first doing some blogging and stuff around the Panthers, I remember meeting Randy in that capacity for the first time. And the first thing he said to me, if there's anything that you ever need, and if anyone ever tells you no, you come get me.
Yeah.
And I thought that was great. He didn't know who I was, he didn't know me from Adam. But he just has had that, we can do this. It's a community thing. The Panthers are for everybody. And I love that he's championed that. And honestly, look how humble he was when we asked him about a day with the Cup. And he's like, I don't need a day with the Cup. I got a ring that's good enough for me.
I've seen him at a couple Stanley Cup parties, and he's the guy that everybody wants to get in on the picture. So he's been around the Cup enough. He may not have been able to take it to Red Deer or to the Deerfield Pier, wherever he would have taken it. But he's been around it enough, and people have made sure that he's part of it. So, and again, like he says, he's got the ring. So the ring is the
two
thing.
now. Yeah,
He's got a second one.
Well, let's talk about this week coming up. There's a bunch of games. It's a homestand starting out
4 games.
Thursday.
4 games.
Yeah, 4 games. Starting out Thursday against Pittsburgh. Sidney Crosby, maybe in his final season or two here in the NHL, making his visit to Sunrise. Saturday, the Las Vegas Golden Knights come into town, or maybe it's just Vegas. We dropped the loss there. Vegas, the Golden Knights come into town on Saturday, and then on Tuesday, the Anaheim Ducks quack their way down here to South Florida, and then lastly on Saturday,
Q being the operative letter there in your quack.
Yeah, Q, the quack. Quinville makes his return, which we'll talk about probably next week before or just after that happens. And then next Saturday against the Dallas Stars. So a full week of some good and then some middling teams. What are your thoughts on this next homestand here for the
Well, I don't think there's any middling teams, right? Pittsburgh is playing extremely well. We don't expect this is one of those teams that you mentioned that shoot out of the gate early on. I don't expect the Pittsburgh Penguins to be around when the dust settles. I don't think a lot of people do. That's why there's so many questions swirling around Sidney Crosby. Vegas Golden Knights. They're the Golden Knights. They're a Stanley Cup contender. Mitch Marner, right? Joel Quenneville's Anaheim Ducks, much improved. I don't know if they're going to survive the West, but I think they're a playoff contender. Frank Vetrano's on that team. Radko Gudas is on that team. They've got some good young talent. Anaheim's up and coming. And then, like you said, the Dallas Stars, they're struggling a little bit right now. They just lost to Columbus. But that's 10 days from now. Who knows? You know, this is the team that's been to the Western Conference Finals the past 3 years, made a change behind the bench. Pete DeBoer's no longer there. But that is a very good hockey team, another Stanley Cup contender. So this is a very difficult 4-game homestand for the Panthers. Maybe it won't, I don't know what it'll look like when we look back at it, but right this second, Pittsburgh's playing well. So, and again, Florida coming off that 5-game homestand. I've been around hockey long enough to know that first home game from a long trip, usually not very good. Pittsburgh could jump all over Florida if they're not careful.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that all plays out. And there's a lot of expectations in Pittsburgh this year. If they don't get something done, there's going to be some changes. So
there's going to be some changes. I think Malkin is on his last year.
Yeah.
They've got Carlson, who they'd like to unload. If anybody would take that contract, I don't know anybody that would. But we'll see. And then you got the Sid question, and it seems like Sid has answered it. He doesn't want to go anywhere. He's taken team-friendly deals his whole career. Nobody means as much to their team as Sid does. I mean, you can argue that Barkov in Florida or McDavid in Edmonton, but Sid is the Pittsburgh Penguins. And, it'd be weird to see him play for anyone else. Maybe he's going to see the Iceplex on Thursday. He's going to be introduced to the Iceplex. Maybe he likes it. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, hey, we have some fun stuff coming up next week. You're not going to want to miss it. Some great plans next week. So make sure that you don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. You can do that wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pocket Casts, anywhere that you get it, Amazon Music. Go ahead and make sure that
I used to have a
smash
Pocket
that subscribe
Caster
button.
when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Little transistor radio.
Yeah, I think that's different, but same idea. So you get radio shows on it. So wherever you get your radio, wherever you get your podcasts, you can subscribe to us and leave a review. That would be really helpful for us. Good reviews only. That's the rule. But leave a review.
Make sure everybody knows how bad Josh is. And
oh my goodness. Yeah. Talk about the graphic transitions. That'll be the thing. But definitely leave a review. Make sure that you do that and follow along and don't miss out on what we got coming every week your way on the pod. And also don't forget to check out Florida Hockey Now. This is George's favorite graphic right here where it jumps around. FloridaHockeyNow.com, which is your source for everything going on with the Panthers. Nobody writes more than George. Nobody has better content than George, and he's got stuff up there all the time. One of my favorite things to do, George, is to get the emails from Florida Hockey Now with the new articles. Sometimes I'm getting news from the email before I've even seen it on social media. That's how quick you are to get to that stuff. So make sure you check out FloridaHockeyNow.com for all
Thank you,
your
Josh, for
Panthers
saying that. I
news.
appreciate it. I'm here for you guys. You know, that's why I started it, right?
He's
We
the
talked
best
about
in
the
biz,
Athletics.
guys.
That's why I started Florida Hockey Now. So you guys would get the coverage you deserve.
Yeah,
I hope
absolutely.
you all like it anyway.
George is the best. And one more time, we just want to thank our sponsors, by the way, the Infield in Sunrise. Appreciate those guys. Hopefully you guys have been checking that out before games or getting some wings. Bill Zito eats the wings. You know, Randy Moller eats the wings. Everybody loves it.
Big fans. Yeah, come on out tomorrow, Saturday, Thursday and Saturday. Come on out to the Infield. It's on Oakland Park Boulevard, just east of the arena. Pre-game, post-game. Come on out. We're going to have Thursday night football on at the Infield after the Penguins game, and we'll have college football games on after the Vegas Golden Knights game. So come on by the Infield. A lot of specials. Show your ticket. You get buy one, get one on your first drink. So that's pretty good. And check out those wings, man. And they got a whole new appetizer thing now going. That 3 for appetizer.
Oh.
Primo stuff, my friend.
I'm gonna get that on Saturday. I'm
okay.
For
yeah.
that.
So Saturday we'll see you. Yeah. So you're going, Josh? I didn't know this.
Yeah. I'm going Saturday. Yeah.
I'm not going Saturday. No, I'm kidding. We'll be there Saturday. We'll watch college football.
More for me.
And they got the hockey package. Let's not forget the Infield has the hockey package for you. So there's always hockey going on. Come on by. A lot of specials. We'll see you there Saturday night for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So thank you guys for following along. We'll see you next week. We love you guys, and go Cats. Thank you, Panther Nation.
Peace.